Today I'm going to show you how to make Japanese city pop. This genre of music came out in the 1970s in Japan and really reached its peak in the 1980s. And during this time, Japan's economy was booming. So the vibes in the city were immaculate. I'm gonna use that word. Now, the first thing to talk about is chords. So when they were building chord progressions for this genre, you'll notice that most are 7th chords. So if we look right here, this is a really common chord progression, and almost all the songs that I like with city pop, at least, they use a guitar. So first I just played this basic chord progression right here, really simple. One thing that's really important is to use some sort of a chorus and reverb. So I just used this Juno 6 chorus and then added some reverb and a slapback delay. And then because I noticed in a lot of city pop songs, there's more groove and rhythm to the guitar, I also did this one as well. Now, the next thing that was really common in city pop songs is synthesizers, and two popular ones were the Juno 106 as well as the DX7. So I took those same chords I was playing with the guitar and I opened up the sound that I created using this synth key called Heaven for Your Heart from my bank Solar, which was made using a Juno 106, or an emulation at least, and then a synth I made using the DX7 in my bank Textures called Pray. And here's how they sound together. And one thing to note is if you look at these notes, they're strummed. That gives it more of like a kind of a glossy kind of feel when you listen to it, as well as I added a little chop towards the end of each of the chords, and this will just add some additional rhythm. And groove is super important for these types of beats, especially with their funk influence. And then to add some variation, I took another sound that I made in the DX7 called Slide, which is part of my bank Lost Nights, and just have it play on these chords right here. Damn it, I just realized I buttoned this one up. I wanted to look cool. Damn it. All right, this next part is probably one of the most challenging parts of making these types of beats, but it's also the most rewarding once you finally figure it out. But I'm gonna try to give you some tips to make it easier, because this is definitely something I'm going to be trying to use just in any other type of beat that I make. And that is the bass line. So I made two bass lines, and I'm just using a regular jazz bass in Trillion here. So here's the first bass line, the more simple bass line. Basically what you want to do is towards the end of each note, so this is like the end of the chord, I basically went and I repeat the note before, and then these are just notes that were in the chord. You just kind of have to listen through and feel what vibe feels right for you. And then the other thing to mention is, because this is a VST and not a real bass, make sure to kind of play with the lengths, move these around a little bit just so it sounds more organic and real. Now for the more complex bass, and this is the one I kind of end up using throughout this track, and it has way more groove. Here's how it sounds. For this one, the most important thing I can mention is just these little notes like this. So it's like almost like you're double tapping the string or strumming it again really quickly. These ones are just going up the chord here, then up and down. And these are just other notes that are within the chord. So this one's a little bit more complicated, but to me, it's like more interesting and fun. And because I went a little bit more basic on the guitar throughout, it sounds really good. If I pair it with this strumming guitar, it just kind of sounds like too much almost. So those are just two ways to do the bass. Then one thing you'll notice in a lot of city pop songs is there's always just something that kind of pops in here and there, and it's almost like a little bit of ear candy. And so what I did to create that in this track, I opened up Arcade, and then I just added this little sound here. And if you want a free month of Arcade, there's a link in the description. Alright, so next we have drums, and there's a few important things to think about when you're making city pop drums. So here's what the drums sound like that I made right here. There's a few keys that will really get you this kind of a sound. So that's the first set of drums, which is a really basic pattern. It's just 4 on the floor, essentially. For the snare, you'll want something with a lot of reverb, and this is like a reverse snare that I added right here. Added a little bit before. And you don't even need this, I just thought it sounded cool. And to make these drums sound a little bit looser, even though they did have drum machines at this point in time, so it kind of just depends on the song, obviously. I added some swing, which just kind of slightly offsets everything to make it sound more organic and real. And then for the other drums, which I feel like really helped elevate this, I just had a actual live hi-hat loop right here, and then this little drum loop that I kind of chopped up and played with. And if you do like the synth sounds that I have played here today, if you just check in the description, I'm having like a pretty great bundle deal on my website. So if you're in need of some additional sounds, they also come as one-shots. But here is how the beat turned out. And you'll see how I kind of used each of the different guitars and whatnot to kind of add variation as well as the bass lines. But here's the beat.